Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hood. This is the Uncensored Match Build Up ahead of Liverpool versus Bologna in the Champions League. Yes, Wednesday night, Anfield, 8 p.m. The Champions League returns to Anfield. It's been far too long since that happened, so we're all looking forward to it. To talk about to talk about the game on today's show, rather, I've got Dan Club and Sam Millne. Dan, it's just nice to have the Champions League back. Last time it wasn't great. This time, more so hoping for better.
Yeah, definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt, yeah, couldn't really get a whole great deal worse than our actual last game in the Champions League at Anfield, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, no, it is just nice to be back. It's always good to have sort of games under the lights at Anfield, even the Carabao Cup game last week. But European nights are that extra bit special, aren't they? In Liverpool, without meaning to sound too arrogant, like back where we belong, aren't we? Back in amongst the big boys in Europe's elite. And yeah, I think this is what it's all about. This is why we do it, basically, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Sam, it's interesting because having gone to Milan and won, the fact that you get Bologna at home next, there's a very, very strong possibility for Liverpool to go 6 out of 6 points. This group phase is whatever league phase is mad. We don't know quite yet what we think is going to get you top 8, what's going to get you 9th, what's going to get you 15. Well, we don't know. But the fact that they won in Milan, and now technically this should be the easiest game. Bologna at home of all the ones we play, probably up there with one of the easier ones, you'd think. It's a massive opportunity for Liverpool to start the campaign off 6 out of 6.
Yeah, and you would have said before the first game in Milan that you win your home games and then you go from there. But now we've won that game, it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. And it feels like a bit of a free hit going into it, although we shouldn't be thinking that because, as I said there, if you win your home games, you get through, +1 away. That feels like a top 8 finish, doesn't it? 12 points +3, which is your Milan away. But it feels just nice to be back in it. Maybe be a bit of an anticlimax on the night because there are so many games in this league phase, it doesn't feel like it has that much importance. But in reality, if you want to finish that top 8, it actually has got some significance on it.
It's worth mentioning as well, Dan. Sam's right, when your home games get you through, but one's Real Madrid, one's Bayer Leverkusen. They're not bankers where you'd think, again, don't count your chickens, but Bologna at home, lost or whatever, at home should, in theory, be your bankers. This is one where Liverpool, having gone to Milan and won, this isn't when you can slip a one. This has got to be 3 points. If you're looking at that top 8 as your aim, you've got to be Bologna at home.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, you don't want any jeopardy or sort of added importance or significance riding on that Bayer Leverkusen or Real Madrid game if you can possibly avoid it. I don't think you're in a position whereby you can sort of cherry pick your points and cherry pick where you are going to pick up wins from. I agree sort of with the general consensus that win your home games is the way forward in the Champions League, but as you touched upon there with Real and Bayer Leverkusen, it's just not quite as straightforward as that. So yeah, I think Liverpool just needs to accrue as many points as quickly as possible in this Champions League massive table and deal with the rest afterwards, basically. If we are in a position whereby, I think it's PSV and Lille we finish off with, if we are in a position whereby we're already pretty much safely through and we can maybe rest and rotate a little bit by then, great. But that's before that, well, it could do.
I'd be sure the fact that it's the whole reason UEFA have done this is to stop that happening.
To add jeopardy later on in the competition. But you say that, but I don't think that's going to be how it's going to work out. I don't see that. I still think there will be games, dead rubbers. From at least one of the team's perspectives by the end, I would be shocked if there wasn't. Really shocked.
I hope you're right in the Liverpool favour, but the way that they've structured the competition is
it's already not going to pan out like that because we've seen some absolute hammerings in the first week of it.
Oh no, there will be some teams who are gone. But I think there'll be some teams who are that 24th. For example, PSV could be battling for that 24th spot.
That'd be one of the team's perspectives, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think there will be some games whereby at least one of the teams later on are just completely on the beach, for want of a better expression. It'll be the middle of February, so maybe not on the beach, but you know what I'm referring to.
Fingers crossed Liverpool are one of those. Bologna's an interesting one, isn't it, Sam? Let's move on to them. They're struggling so far. 13th in Serie A, 1 win. Drew 0-0 with Shakhtar in with match day 1 or whatever they're calling it these days. They did so well to qualify for the Champions League, and then they got raided. Calafiori, Arsenal, Xerxes goes to Man United. Thiago Motta is now the Juventus manager. He left them as well. It feels like they got there, and they haven't really been able to build again because all the teams have come in, the quote-unquote big boys of Europe have come in and snatched some of their better players. They took the manager off them. It's a bit of a shame from their perspective, but it makes things, in theory, a little bit easier for Liverpool. They're not getting the Bologna who were a very good side last year. This one looks like it's struggling a bit more.
No, and without wanting to underestimate them, even if you look last year, they finished 5th in Serie A, because they have their coefficient. They've got the top 5 places instead of England. So even in that respect, what's the equivalent of 5th in Serie A? Maybe 10th, 11th, 12th in the Premier League. It sounds a bit simplistic, but that is the case in terms of the players you're actually coming up against. I think they'll still be dangerous on the wings. That seems to be the kind of consensus reading about them, is that Orsolini and Ndoye could cause problems if we play maybe Tsimikas at left back. But, you'd still expect us to win, especially at home.
They have struggled, and again, I can't admit that I've watched too much Bologna games, but obviously, once you've drawn, and you're half keeping an eye out. They drew with Udinese, I think it was to start the season, got battered by Napoli, drew with Empoli at home, drew with Como, drew with Shakhtar, beat Monza a weekend ago, and then they had a 1-1 draw with Atalanta with down to 10 men. Isn't a horrendous result on Saturday, but it feels like you're getting a team low on confidence. They've got big injuries, like say Lewis Ferguson's out for a while now. He was Serie A team of the year last year. He's the captain. He's injured. Castro went off with a calf issue, and he's another one who's again another big miss for them. It feels like we're not getting the Bologna who had, like Sam said, a decent season last year. You're getting they're trying to build again, they're trying to go again, and that's really tough to do when you're trying to play Champions League footy at the same time.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, it's a watered down version, and this is their first time back in sort of the elite level of Europe. I think it's like 60 years, something like that. They've not competed at this, and their main achievement really was punching above the weight last season and getting into the Champions League. And I'm not suggesting for 1 second they're just going to be happy to be there and come along for the ride a little bit. They are going to compete. They are going to look to sort of maybe get into one of those playoff spots, something like that. But this is definitely a watered down version of what it was last season. They are trying to find their feet again. Castro will be a big miss if he's not available. So I think he's their top goal scorer so far this season. Scored the goal at the weekend in that draw. But then you say all that, and I think we'd have had maybe not quite the same, but similar conversations around Atalanta potentially at some point last season, and we all know what happened there. Absolutely, so can't take anything for granted. Got to give them their due respect. They are in the Champions League for a reason. So Liverpool will be well aware of the threats that they do pose. But having said all of that, on paper, on form, all that sort of stuff, this isn't Bologna of last season. This is Bologna with a new manager, missing key players as you referenced as well. So I'm going into this with the utmost confidence that we will have more than enough power on the night to overcome them.
You do wonder as well, don't you, Sam, to wrap up the weekend, they were unlucky. Atalanta scored in the 90th minute, and they'd played 45, almost the second half entirely with 10 men. You wonder if that's took a little bit out of them. The fact that they have got injury issues and they've had a really tough game against the side who we know are physical in Atalanta, and they've had to play 40 odd minutes with 10 men. The centre half got sent off. You wonder if that has a little impact on them as well. Like I mentioned before, Castro injured his calf. He comes off. That's no bad laughs to play Atalanta with 10 men and not trying to hold on for a win. That could play a part in this.
I think they've got a new striker they signed in the summer who might start up front, but hasn't scored a goal yet. So
fucking hell, he's scoring. Get somebody on. Get on him.
Said that, jinxed.
Who's he? He's playing. It's Danilo, isn't it?
Keeper has a worldie and that happens.
It's Zaniolo, isn't it, as well? They got Zaniolo back. Well, they got Zaniolo from Aston Villa,
Galatasaray, Rome, Aston Villa. I'm not sure where he's at these days.
He's on loan from Galatasaray, having been at Aston Villa. But
having moved from Rome to Galatasaray.
One of Villa's interesting deals. But when you look at the season as a whole, you kind of wonder where their priorities lie at the moment too, because realistically, I'm not saying teams should be like this when they enter the Champions League, but are they going to win it? And if you're not doing well in the league, they might just be concentrating on the league and thinking, this is a free hit at Anfield to a certain extent. I think they still play their best 11, and I think we go quite close to our best 11 as well. But where do their priorities lie?
They have got no, sorry, I said Zaniolo before. Zaniolo, he came on against them. Sorry, for Atalanta. I was reading
makes sense,
I was reading the wrong list. It got myself confused on the wrong list. I was thinking I didn't know he'd play for them. It was he brought home Ehrlich, Casale. I don't know any of these players who he brought on, and that's kind of where
the whole spine of that team's more or less gone. That's the problem. You mentioned Lewis Ferguson. I think he's out with an ACL. He was brilliant last season for them. Obviously, Xerxes, Calafiori. That was the reason they got where they got. They finished 5th in Serie A, as you mentioned. So to lose all of them, a couple of injuries as well. I think another one of the DMs has gone down with another ACL. Actually, there's somebody else missing. You mentioned Castro's got a problem there. Castro is the interesting one. I think if he's not available, that would be a huge blow to their chances in this game. As I mentioned, top scorer, only 20 years old, Argentinian. I think he's the one that probably sort of, getting ready for that next move, because that's what Bologna are. I'm sure they won't want to hear that, but that's what they are. Like, they're a selling club. When the big boys come calling, that's what's going to happen. We've seen it with the manager, not just the players. So, yeah, it is what it is. But again, come back to Liverpool. Liverpool needs to be on our game, and if we can afford, we've been very good of late, not so much at the weekend, but we've been very good at late at being professional in games and almost like economical with our time and our energy and be a bit conservative with it. If we can get to a position whereby we can do that again tomorrow night, job's a good one.
Absolutely. The best laid plans, though, before
yes,
the Forest,
things
can go wrong, so you're going to have to get ourselves around. Like I say, I'm just looking through their squads. They're not household names, Sam, really. You know what I mean? There's Castro's probably the most well-known one, and he's only recently emerged. And then, as that Ndoye you mentioned before, or Salini, there's no one there, unless you feel free to correct me, who you're just like, household name, really worry about him. That like I say, it's a bit of a mishmash of a squad.
No, and I think if you want that kind of insight, you're going to have to watch Dan's video that came out. But just as a whole, I think with a new manager, they kind of need to look at Serie A and start racking up points before they start going, focusing on Liverpool in the Champions League. Because as I said before, it's like you come to Anfield and it's almost like a day out for the fans, and you're coming away with something positive anyway. And they haven't collapsed this year. Only Napoli, they've been beaten 3-0, so that does suggest they've got a bit something about them.
Yeah.
They're not just going to come to Anfield, and we've kind of seen we don't thrash teams this year anyway. 3-0 has been the biggest scoreline, except West Ham, which was 2 in the last 2 minutes, weren't it? That wasn't really a 5-1 game. So we will be quite controlled, and I don't expect them to come to Anfield and let loads of goals in. But as Dan says, hopefully it can just be a game where we're 2-0 up on 60 minutes. We can maybe bring Bradley on for Trent if he hasn't started, make those pre-planned substitutions and go on to the 12:30 at the weekend.
Fingers crossed, because that does definitely play into it, the fact that they've got an early kick-off on at Palace at the weekend. Right then, speaking of Liverpool, we were talking about them. Injury updates, there's a couple of injuries that we need to speak about as well. We were doing all that after the break. Before we head into that break, got a trivia question for you. I'll be honest, this might not be one that you know the answer to.
Oh, wonderful.
This is going to... I'd be sure, fair enough if you do. You might do the research.
Okay.
It's probably going to be one that you're more likely to have a guess. So if you're watching along live on YouTube, you can have a guess too. Federico Chiesa has played 11 times against Bologna.
Okay, go on.
How many goals has he scored against them? So obviously, I think Sam knows. He might have done his research. Sam's been doing the previews on This Is Anfield for this game, so Sam might have his head around this one. But that includes for Fiorentina and for Juventus, of course. So, Federico Chiesa, 11 times he's played against Bologna. How many goals has he scored against them? We'll be back with the answer to that. And, of course, chatting about Liverpool's team news and selection issues after this quick message. See you all in a minute.
Liverpool supporters of Scotland, we are heading your way. It is a new era for Liverpool Football Club, and to celebrate, we're heading on the road with our very own new era tour, trademark pending, and this time we're heading up to Scotland for the very first time. On Thursday, the 10th of October, we'll be live on stage at Duck Slattery's, no idea, with a show filled with laughs, cheers, and our usual Redmen TV nonsense. Not only that, but the brilliant Keogh will be performing too, belting out the best Liverpool anthems to get you up, singing and dancing with us. If you'd like to attend, tickets are on sale now. Head to skiddle.com, search the Redmen TV and get along to our very first show north of the Bull.
Get your tickets. Redmen Live, got Dundee there. We've got Redmen Live in Liverpool as well. Night before the Chelsea game. Go to Skiddle, Google or whatever, search Redmen TV on there. Get your tickets. There's 2 belter nights coming up. Dundee on October 10th and then October 19th in Liverpool, Hotel Anfield for that one. Before the breakdown, asked you about Federico Chiesa. How many goals has he scored in his 11 games against Bologna? Sam, you think you know because you've been writing your preview, so I'm not going to come to you first. Dan has got no clue. No. So go on, have a little guess, Dan. 11 games.
11 games, 5 goals.
He has scored more against Bologna than any other team.
11 games, 7 goals.
Sam?
I read this stat this morning and I think it was 7.
It was 7, yeah. He scored 7 times in 11 games. So no one in the chat got it right. Nigel, Russell, Mr. J Mango, Clint, all got wrong. The answer was 7. Unfortunately, and let's start with the injury news, Dan. Federico Chiesa didn't train today. Diogo Jota didn't train today. Jota's got a mild foot issue. We had a scan that was all clear, so he's not completely ruled out. We've had no information on Federico Chiesa yet why he missed the session. Sometimes when they don't give you nothing, you start worrying a bit more. So we'll figure out where we are. However, Andy Robertson did train. He obviously limped out very late on against Wolves. Darwin Nunez missed that game as well with illness. He did train today. So that's where we're at. 2 in, 2 out for Liverpool. Unfortunately, 2 of the outs are forwards. Only one's coming back. So let's talk Liverpool team then. How big an impact do you think 12:30 Saturday has on this one? Or do you not think Arne Slot's bothered?
No, I think it definitely has an impact. I'd be shocked if it didn't play into the thinking. Now, I know the old adage in football is one game at a time, but that's more from sort of a player's point of view and how you focus your mind and shift your attentions and all that sort of stuff. And listen, the coaching staff and Arne Slot will be drilling that into the players as well, don't get me wrong, but he will know what's coming down the line in terms of schedule, not just Saturday, but beyond that as well. I know we've got an international break, but thereafter it really is intense. And I think he will group games in a certain manner and group his selections accordingly as well. So I definitely think 12:30 Saturday will be playing on his mind. Whether it impacts his starting 11 is a different question. We'll talk about that in more detail in a minute, but it will definitely. Sam mentioned pre-planned subs a moment ago. I think it will definitely have a factor in what he's looking to do. Obviously, again, best laid plans may or may not work. He might not be able to do the things he would like to do if the game isn't going according to plan. But he will know in the back of his mind for about every single decision he makes in the next 48 hours that there's a big game. Because all the games are big, but there's a big old game at the weekend away at Sellers Park. That is without a shadow of a doubt, and the injuries do not help the cause whatsoever. They never do, but the timing of these potential absences is not helpful. Really, really, really not.
Yeah, we'll touch on the side now then. If Arne Slot wins, he'll be the first Liverpool manager to win 8 of his first 9 games in charge at Liverpool, so there's a little staff lawyers as well. I think it is must win, given what the fixtures are, Sam, and I think the team might reflect it a little bit. What we have seen in recent weeks, actually, since the midweek game starters, there's been a couple of lads who you'd call midweek players, and I'd say Kostas Tsimikas and Cody Gakpo, the two that spring to mind straight away. Robertson obviously had the ankle issue, or it was like he got trod on, didn't he, towards that game. He limped off. Given the fact that Tsimikas played against West Ham, he played in Milan, I think he's going to start again tomorrow night. Do you agree?
I'd agree. But from what we've seen from Slot so far, he doesn't like making many changes, does he? Especially only if it's the League Cup. And you'd expect that to continue, really. I think maybe, as you say, Gakpo, he deserves a start. And I don't think Luis Diaz would be kicking up a fuss. I mean, he'd obviously like to play, but Gakpo's been playing so well. It's not like Robertson, where Robertson's clearly the better player and he'll want to be playing every game. But Tsimikas should come in. Might be a slight worry against Orsolini on the right, on the Bologna right, but hopefully, if Van Dijk starts, which he should do, as Konate probably will do as well, we should be able to deal with it more than enough. And then it looks like Nunez was going to have to play with Jota out, so I don't think these injuries are necessarily as bad a thing as Dan was thinking, because if you look now, you've got Nunez. I think he's better when he plays more than one game in a row, so if he can play 2 games in a row with an international break, then he's off. Hopefully Jota doesn't go away on internationals and has time to get back fit for the big run after that, then I think we'd be fine. And then is Chiesa going to start anyway? It'd be handy to bring him off the bench, but I think Salah starts anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Nunez was always, if he was fit, was going to play. I don't think Jota was going to start 3 in a week. I think the aim will be to get Jota back to play Palace at the weekend. I think that's what they're aiming for. And apparently, according to Sky Sports, that's what they think is likely. There's a chance he's even on the bench tomorrow night. He hasn't been ruled out. His foot's just sore. The scan was all clear, which is good news. So do you agree Kostas plays, by the way, very quickly?
Yeah, that's how.
So Kostas, definitely. And then the same back 3. I think the other 3 start. I don't see him changing. I don't think Bradley starts.
I don't think Bradley starts. No. The only one whereby it wouldn't massively shock me if he went Quansah over Konate.
I'd be shocked.
I don't think I would. I don't think
I fancied him.
No, I tend to agree. Definitely Konate's shirt, without no doubt about that whatsoever. But I just wonder whether the the amount of football that we're playing, he's clearly cautious about one or two in the squad. He's already spoken about Jota and needing to be careful with him. I wonder whether picking up the odd little problem here and there with Chiesa and Jota plays into his thinking a little bit. He thinks, okay, this is a thing now. I need to be really, really careful because I've got so much football to come. I need to make sure I can nurse them through. It wouldn't amaze me if it went to Quanta.
Okay. Midfield, he's been reluctant to change anything in midfield, really. He likes the Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai trio. Options-wise, Endo, don't really see that one. I think Gravenberch is a certainty to play there. I suppose Curtis is the one time. Maybe. I think there's logical reasons to say to Szoboszlai, sit with this one out and play Curtis Jones. I don't know if he'll do that or he's willing to do that, but it wouldn't be the biggest shock either.
No,
what do you think? I actually think Szoboszlai probably would start, but I could see either way.
I've got a feeling he might go Curtis Jones.
Yep.
I think it's time. And listen, naturally with an eye to bringing Szoboszlai back in at the weekends.
Yep.
Maybe it is. You obviously frame it as a rest to Szoboszlai, but in reality it's a kick up the arse and saying, he needs to play better. And I think he's aware of that. We've seen on the weekend when he came off, he was shaking his head. I think that was a disappointment at his own performance as opposed to actually being taken off. And Curtis Jones has been good when he's come on. He was certainly at Wolves, I thought. So I think he deserves that opportunity. And I think you will have to sort of change the makeup of that midfield a little bit, and you probably do Jones alongside Gravenberch and allow McAllister playing the further forward, the 10 role if you like. So yeah, that's where I'd be. And again, I think it's a double-edged win, really, double-edged sword, because you've got Szoboszlai probably in need of a rest, stroke kick up the arse, and you've got Jones who has been playing well when called upon, so you give him a little boost as well.
What do you think, Sam?
It's interesting that you think that Jones would be the one to sit beside Gravenberch, because I would have said that as well at the start of the season, but seeing Jones in the second half against West Ham when he had a bit more freedom to get forwards, I think he could be a bit like Szoboszlai. He's got an eye for goal, Jones. And so for me, Szoboszlai needs to be rested this game. I think he's more effective away from home for us, where we've got more ground to make up going backwards. Palace have got good attacking players, and his work off the ball is so good. When you're at home, Jones is perfect, I think, because you're counter pressing every time, so you're almost not going backwards. Endo, I think, is better at home as well, because you're trying to keep them in rather than go back and tackle, which is something Endo's better at. So I wouldn't be disappointed to see Endo play either. But I mean, Gravenberch's undroppable.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think the Champions League, and he's like the idea that he's going to make wholesale changes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Up front, then, even if Jota's fit, you look like he's not going to start. So Darwin's back available. Darwin plays. Salah's going to play. Chiesa's out. We think there's nobody else really over who can play there. It is the Diaz Gakpo conundrum, really, and I tend to agree with Sam. Really, both you could pick either of them. They're both in form. You could pick Gakpo up front. I don't think he fancies doing that, if I'm honest. So he's got to choose one or the other. I think he's going to lean towards Gakpo. I think he's within this rhythm now of weekend. Gakpo probably plays. Diaz starts at the weekend, and everyone's half happy with it. And there's a very good chance at some point Lucho comes on anyway and gets another go like he did in the new camp.
Yeah, I'd be on board with that. Yeah, because Gakpo, as Sam mentioned, Gakpo deserves this start, doesn't he? He deserves a start in the Premier League. It's just that Luis Diaz has been so exceptional. He's not been able to get one. You need to keep Gakpo ticking over as well, because you're going to need him. You may even need him at the weekend at some point. You need to keep him as in form and as sharp as possible. And also, it's a couple of changes in the front lines. Obviously, one change we're talking about in midfield, and likewise in defence. That's about the sort of level of changes I'm expecting for this game. It's not going to be the wholesale 10 changes we've seen at West Ham. It's going to be just tinkering here and there. And again, you're keeping lads at it, you're keeping lads hungry, you're keeping lads fresh, whilst also giving some much needed rest to some others as well. You want the best version of all of these lads, your bench and your starters, for as long as possible. And I think this is the best way of doing it, personally. So yeah, I'd be Cody Gakpo. And Cody Gakpo has been brilliant, absolutely brilliant so far this season, and you want him to know that he's going to start games of football, providing he keeps playing the way that he does, and the best way of doing that is rewarding him with starts where possible, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I think he will. Right then, let's have a little look, just as out of interest, then what else is going on in the Champions League over this next few days. At time recording, obviously Liverpool's games tomorrow, so we've got Salzburg, Brest, nice, Stuttgart, Sparta Prague. Looking at some bigger games. Dortmund Celtic is an interesting one. That'll be fun to watch if anyone's looking for something to watch. City go to Slovan Bratislava. I think it's their first European game for a long time at home. You'd expect City to win comfortably there. Leverkusen Milan's an interesting one, not a bad one.
Is Munich Villa? That's tomorrow, is it?
Yeah, we've got Arsenal PSG is probably the standout tie tonight, Sam. Arsenal just about got over the line against Leicester. They've got big games coming up. PSG at home is another test for them, but yeah, they haven't quite cracked the Europe thing yet, Arsenal. That's a big one for them trying to lay a real marker down, isn't it?
Yeah, and they didn't win their first game either, did they, Arsenal?
Did you with Atalanta?
So the pressure's on for their home games now, as we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they win that. I don't rate PSG at all. Not that I've watched them this season, but in general, I just don't think they've got a kind of a clear identity in what they want to do. A bit like Man United in that they seem to just buy players for the name. I think there's recently PSG have started they kind of changed approach, haven't they, their owners, and they're bringing through a lot more youngsters, so I might be jumping the gun a bit on that one, but
they're
I think
a big
Arsenal,
enough name, aren't they, where Arsenal can get a boost out of beating them.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. Elsewhere tomorrow, like you say, you've got Villa Bayern. This is what Villa are in it for, Dan. This is what happens when you get the Champions League.
Rerun of the 82 final.
82 final, yeah, it went well that time. That's the type of glamour tie. When you're Aston Villa and you qualify the Champions League, listen, I might be wrong, but I don't think Villa fans have got many aspirations of winning this thing. That's a big old game to get. First game back at Villa Park in the European Cup Champions League for a long time. Welcoming Bayern Munich, I reckon Villa Park will be bouncing on Wednesday.
Yeah, you get a good atmosphere down there anyway. But that's what it's all about, as you say there. That's what the fans are in it for, and the players as well. I think we downplay that sometimes. But listen, Villa have a very well assembled squad now. It's actually relatively star-studded. But I know John McGinn's absent. But to use him as an example, if you were to speak to John McGinn sort of off record and say that Bayern Munich, he'd be absolutely buzzing for it. And I'm sure a few of them will be likewise as well. Ollie Watkins of this world. So yeah, that's why you want to get in the Champions League. And again, you want to go as deep and as far as possible, no matter what club you play for. But realistically, winning it feels a bit far-fetched. So get those nights and as many of them under your belt and just enjoy them. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
It's interesting how the first match day, for lack of a better phrase, went. There was only 1, 2, 3. I think 3 of the games were draws, and then there was either a winner or a loser in all of them. This week, actually, it's very early days, of course, Sam, but for example, if Milan lose and they're no points after 2 games, already there's pressure on them. If even just top 8's almost wow, even getting that into the top 24 or whatever looks a little bit distant. This is almost like moving day a little bit in this league format now. If you can find stuff if you're Liverpool, 6 out of 6, don't worry about the rest. So other teams like mentioned there, Arsenal, PSG, if Arsenal don't win, all of a sudden they're 2 points or 1 point after 2 games. It's not insurmountable. This is why it's a massive opportunity for Liverpool here, just to create some gaps between, like I say, they'll be desperate to finish top 8. They don't want to be in that qualifier. There's a chance here where the league starts making a little bit more sense after match week 2.
Yeah, and I think there's a thing with having a good start in this competition. It was the same in the group stage. If you can get 6 points from your first 6, you can then start to look at the last couple of games of the group, or the league phase especially. And especially for Liverpool, if they want to get that top 8, then winning the first few games, they can then look at resting players in January, February, when traditionally we've maybe not been as good under Klopp, and under Slot it might start telling that he's not had to deal with Champions League and Premier League. If we can basically have 3 hits in that last game, or even to a point the second last game, then it'd be a massive bonus for us.
That'll have been some great nights at Anfield, because Real Madrid and Leverkusen have probably taken a bit of a beating.
It would, but Leverkusen I don't think have been the same team this year, without having watched them properly, just looking at the results. And then Madrid will be Madrid. They always seem to get one over at us, but hopefully we can channel 2009.
No, so like I say, fingers crossed, Liverpool could do it. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but this is what I'm saying. I think there's a real possibility for Liverpool to get themselves in a really good position. Okay, don't count your chickens before they hatch. They haven't people on you, they're going to have to go and do it. Time will tell if they do. Do you think they will, Dan?
Yeah, I do. I think the relative strength of both squads will show here ultimately. And I know the thing in the room, the elephant in the room is the Atalanta game, isn't it, from last season? I think we all anticipated Liverpool to be too strong for them, and ultimately we weren't. But this isn't them. Stylistically, they're very different, and actually, in terms of where they're at, Atalanta have been under Gasperini for a long time. They knew they had that set identity, they had that set style, and they executed it perfectly.
They had European experience.
Yeah, as well. Of course they did. The Bologna aren't any of those things that I've just said there. They're a decent outfit. Again, still trying to find their feet after what was a summer of upheaval, really, that football club. So, yeah, I think even with the 3 or 4 changes that I'm anticipating, we should have too much for this side.
Yeah, you'd hope so. Thinks the same, Dan. Sorry, Sam, do you think they'll win?
Yeah, I could see us going behind early, as usual. But then, yeah, I think
As usual, that hasn't really been the case so far.
We started
starting slowly.
without
slowly,
conceding,
Underselling us there.
Yeah,
But starting slowly, but then, 3-1.
I'll say 3-0.
Yeah, 4-0, I think.
4.
Yeah, Salah scored a hat-trick against these last time I think he played against them. I think,
For Roma.
Or he
I was gonna
scored,
say,
very recently scored a hat-trick. I've actually got the stat, I can tell you that now. Salah has scored 5 and 3 against Bologna, including a hat-trick in Roma's 3-0 win in November 2016. So it wasn't the last time, but he has got form against them. It was a long time ago, of course.
Scraping the barrel.
I mean, I don't think any of those other Mo Salah were involved in that game, but it was interesting. You've got to just think we're going to have a bit too much quality for them. And I don't think Arne Slot and Liverpool underestimate this one, because I think they are vitally aware of there are bigger tests to come, and you need a little bit of a buffer, because you can't bank on beating Real Madrid and Leverkusen at Anfield. Usually when you look, you go, yeah, banker. And this one should be. Lille at home probably should be. I think you have to be prepared to the fact that you might not get a point against Real Madrid, or you might struggle to get a point against them or whatever. So I think they're going to be well aware what this one is, and I think they're going to come out firing. Hopefully the ideal scenario is beat them early and get lads off ahead of the weekend. But listen, I was saying this before Nottingham Forest, and you're looking ahead and things can bite you in the arse. So I think the bang go for this one. Also, Swift mentioned, Sam, it is Slot's first European game at home. Like, it's another thing off his little tick list, isn't it, to experience. He just doesn't look like the type of manager who takes things lightly. He tries to play the same team as often as he can.
No, it's quite funny, because when he's talked, he's often kind of downplayed lower half teams, or right-sided teams as the Dutch would call it. But then his team selections don't suggest that at all, do they, so far? And I'm pleased with that. I think everything changes after this next international break, but so far I think he's been right. He has kind of downplayed a bit the start we've had, in terms of we've been able to pretty much put our full strength 11 out in every game, and the matches haven't been against massively difficult opposition, including Man United.
But he said everyone we played in the bottom half, and
exactly.
he's right.
And he's right, yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I love that we can say that stat without having to change it because of Man United.
Yeah.
But I think he takes it seriously as well, and we go for it and win.
Yeah, I think his style of resting players, Dan, is win the game and get them off. Yeah. Like, he's taken sub sent off for half an hour to go. He rather than rest them for 90 minutes, he'd rather give them 260s off or 230s off rather, and that way. So yeah, I think it's the same. I agree. I think we'll win as well. Touch wood, that is the case. We'll be live on YouTube with the watch along for that game as well. 80 minutes before kickoff. So let's do. I always struggle with this bit every time. 20-7.
Yeah.
Get in. 20-7 UK time, we'll be live. Me, Dan and Errol with the build-up show. We'll be live right the way through with the watch along and all your post-game stuff as well. So if you're at home with no one to watch the game with, tune in on your second screen on YouTube. Watch it with us. We'll give biased commentary. You can get in the chat. You can listen to the songs. And you can mute the telly, because I'll be honest, commentary these days is poor. Like, honest to God, like, really, really poor. I was getting tagged the other day in tweets about people like saying, "Why is Gary Neville commentating on Liverpool games?" Like, and it was like, just mute it and listen to these. I was like, that's exactly what you should be doing, because anyone who listens to that Wolves commentary on Sky the other day, God, oh my God, absolutely dreadful. So mute them, come and listen to us. We've got you covered every step of the way. Right, thanks to Dan, thanks to Sam, thanks for you guys for watching or listening to this Uncensored Match Build Up. Enjoy the game, and we'll catch you on Wednesday. See you there.